So why do we use discussion boards? Either someone online, in fact, one of you can respond, and maybe someone in here. Why do we use discussion boards? Why do we have them at all? Like, why does an online class need a discussion board? Can someone, yeah.
To build community in the classroom.
To build community? Okay, that's a good answer. If someone answers online, please let me know. One of you online, tell me, why do we have discussion boards? Someone else in here want to while we're waiting on the, okay.
I'm more thinking just like engagement.
Engagement.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I use it for my online classes to substitute for in-class interaction, but one additional advantage is that some people are slow processors. And so
Right.
even in an in-person class, someone might not feel comfortable sharing in class, but they would feel comfortable doing a follow-up on a discussion board. So
Yeah.
it can be useful that way as well.
Absolutely. It makes it more accessible to everyone, so that culturally, like I'm only one, I'm a white female, middle class, you know, and so online discussions provide us an opportunity to bring in culturally different people, bring in people with different mindsets, different thoughts, different questions. That's the real benefit of discussion. And so my plan when deciding what kind of discussion board to use was to maximize student engagement, number one, as you had said. Also to create an inclusive environment, that your opinion matters to me. What you want to learn matters to me. What you already know and what you are going to bring to the table in the class is important to me. I also wanted to create critical thinkers. Well, back to that first one, it addresses competencies. So we look at the challenges in criminal justice today, which are immense, and what do we want to engage the conversation in and around in that conversation? So it does address competencies, but critical thinking is probably a competency in most people's learning objectives. And so it encourages that critical thinking and values the decision, the process. And then lastly, creating a space that encourages cultural inquiry, especially in criminal justice today. Kind of important. Then, how is it going to measure it? As Megan said, we have to talk about what are going to be the measurements. How are we going to measure whether this discussion board over this discussion board is better or not better, or as good as? And so I wanted to address the median and the average posts per student, the length of those posts. Is it just, yes, I agree with Johnny. No, I don't agree with Megan. The questions, the generation rate of the questions. Like I had discussion boards before where I had a question and I had, a one student response. Whereas with Packback, I've had a question that's had 12 student responses. Have you ever had that? Most people, most not. But, and then lastly, Packback also provides us data that can support these decisions and so forth. All right, so what did I do? So how did I get students to learn? Because most students go on a discussion board and there's a question that you've asked them that they're going to answer. The difference being Packback is the student generates the question. The students generate the conversation. It's not me just asking them a question, Michael, answer XYZ. It's the student asking the question. And because of that, it changes the depth of knowledge, what they're learning. This is how I did the assignment originally, and it's changed over time. I put this in there so that if Megan wants to put it out to you, this is how I do the assignment. So welcome to Packback. Each week, you should ask a curiosity question that relates to this week's learning material. So whatever's in this week's learning material. I tried to make this generic enough for everyone as well. I will sometimes provide guidance. Like I might say, this week, we're talking about the history of criminal justice in AJS 101. Or I might say, this week, we're talking about ethics. So I might prompt them with, remember what week we're on in the study overall. You start posting your question by just simply clicking on that Ask a New Question button within Packback. You do need to provide a source with your question, which most discussion boards don't even offer that. You need to post one question and you need to respond to a minimum of 2. Guess how, percentage-wise, how many of my students generally respond to just 2 questions? How many? What do you think?
80%.
You think 80%? Wrong.
79.
Wrong. Most of my students respond to 3 or more other students, not 2, like I tell them they have to do. Exactly. That's not been my experience in the past either. Why do you think I love Packback so much? The thought that they would go above and beyond what I've asked them to do is just amazing to me. I provided this resource here too, and just because we're short on time, Packback does have a support center that will provide reports to you, and Maricopa has participated in, I think I maybe have that as the next slide, I do, in a recent white paper study that covered 67,000 posts. They've even done just mine for me that had over 9,000 posts in 1 year. 9,000 posts from students. The findings revealed that students who use Packback are more likely to sustainably contribute to online discussion, which improves their grades, the retention, without burdening you more as the instructor. You then can spend your time on content instead of, yes, they responded. No, this isn't a long enough answer. You didn't provide a resource. All the administrative stuff Packback does for you. You can look at the content and say, yes, Johnny asked this question about criminal justice, and the students responded in this way, which was from the content that you taught them, or they didn't respond in the way that was from the content. So what's that do for me as an instructor? I look at that and go, oh, I need to provide them another resource. Poof, here's the resource. Then I take that resource and I put it in next semester's class. Because I thought, oh, they got the wrong spin on this last stuff. I need to give them a different stuff. That's how I improve my lesson moving forward. That's the do part. Now, I've got several of these student quotes in here because I just love sharing them. These are from Mesa students. Another way this victimology class has helped me is by helping me critically think about multiple subjects surrounding victimology through the discussion. And then you can read the rest of it. But just the thought that they're looking at multiple subjects surrounding victimology in my victimology class is rewarding to me, because they're realizing that victimology can cover not just the victimology class, not just criminal justice, it can cover sociology, psychology, lots of different things, and they were excited about it. I've got a couple more that are even better. The summaries and the findings. This was from the white paper study that Maricopa did participate in. It improves student engagement, as we can tell. This is the year-over-year percentage of posts. So if I move this down, you can tell what year they started with, but they ended with 21. This study was done in 21. And then the year-over-year average curiosity score. Now, your curiosity score, I require my students to have a minimum of 40 points on their curiosity score to get full credit for that post. So it can't just be one sentence. They're not going to get their curiosity points with a question that's just one sentence and supporting evidence that's just one sentence. So this shows the growth of those students from 2021, 22, 23. This one's the more recent one, because the growth went from a 63% average curiosity score to 75. So the growth in students over time, which also improves their grade. And I'll tell you how I know that for a fact. In one semester, the second year I used Packback, I taught 2 victimology classes back to back. Identical class design, identical class everything, except one had Packback, one did not. 17% higher grades in the class with Packback as opposed to the class without it. And that was the only thing that was different. I had a discussion board in the first one, just wasn't Packback. It improves their depth of knowledge because they're looking up the questions. They're looking up the resources to get their student to ask the question. And they're asking the questions on the things they want to learn about victimology, or about intro to criminal justice, or about ethics. It improves the rigor, the quality, improves overall grade. I just shared with you that statistic. And positive student and faculty satisfaction. So I know I'm much happier with it because I'm more engaged with the students at a different level than I was on a discussion board that had no AI attached, no feedback to students. It also helps them improve their overall writing, because within Packback, there's a little support mechanism that goes along the side that tells them, this is a closed-ended question. You need to add more detail to your explanation. I mean, it gives them little tips that make their writing better. So what happens when they take a quiz that has a short answer question? They actually answer that short answer question with 1 or 2 paragraphs instead of 2 sentences. Student success, and here's some examples of that. This was a post by a student in March of 23, beginning of a class. It was an 8-week course. Just 2 months later, same student, this was their post. This was their curiosity score on their first post. This was their curiosity score on their last and subsequent posts. This one has no supporting evidence. This one has a source documented. This one's 2 paragraphs in length. In just 2 months, we see that kind of growth in a student. We should all be jumping up and down. Why isn't everyone doing this? So then I had to add this quote, even though it's not from the same student, because it just got it on Monday. This student responded to me in a post with this: I never enjoyed discussion boards until this class. I feel discussion boards in this class is very educational because we have to do our own research. We're not just getting information from the book. We're getting information from different sources and forming our own opinions on topics. I didn't ask for this information back. The student sent me this. It gave me goosebumps. And I said, this was supposed to happen because I'm presenting today.
Yeah.
Right? Right? I had to put it in there. And I asked her, is it okay if I post this with your name? She said, yes, please do. It warms my heart. Warmed my heart. So what do we do then? What is our action? What do we do? What do we do with the results? Well, we improve instruction. After viewing the discussions, an important step is to enhance the learning experience by addressing potential learning gaps and any confusion that's out there. So if a student posts a question that isn't in line with the topic, or is they list a source that's not a legitimate, it's from Wikipedia, then I know to go back, and in their discussion, I will give them an additional resource, or I'll respond. And I try to respond in a way that's very positive. I understand where this thought came from, but let me share this with you. And then I give them an additional resource. And then, like I said, I'll take that resource and put it in next semester's class, because they'll be like, oh yeah, I need to better explain this topic so they get to the same end goal. So that's my action. So I fine-tune instruction, I provide additional resources, I clarify any ambiguity, and I'm swapping, most importantly, administrative work for me to more higher impact work that involves the content. I much would rather spend my time working on the content in a course than this was a closed-end question, this isn't on point, this isn't a long enough discussion, and then copy and paste that into every discussion board because I didn't do it right. Packback does that for me. I know what their curiosity score is. And this is proof from Mesa that our engagement, and this is what makes us different than a correspondence course. A correspondence course, when I was in the Army for 22 years, you get a book, you take a test, you get a credit. That's a correspondence course. Online learning is about student engagement with the professor. Look how much it has gone up since 21 because of Packback. This is what makes us an online class, is the connection with the instructor. This is amazing. We've had discussion boards at Mesa since I started in 2000. We didn't have this. I had made myself a note about that. Professors spending more time on content and less time on those administrative things is truly what separates us from being a correspondence course.